Hi, this is Todd Malcote, the SEO faculty for Market Motive and online marketing consultant at stuntdouble.com, and I'm here with part 6 of the Ninja Guide to Link Building, and we're on approach assessment. We need to take a look at how you approach your prospects and what you're going to say to them, how you're going to convince them that they need to give you a link or they should give you a link or it's valuable to their users. We need to look at how to find that contact information that we will look for when we're doing that prospecting that we talked about earlier, as well as our content strategy. If we're just doing content, we call that link baiting, and how we're going to approach that process, as well as how to create some outreach emails, some ideas for how you can do that, the process, the wording, etc. The first thing to keep in mind is asking for a link is like asking to do business. This is a quote that Mike Grehan has said over and over, and I absolutely agree with it. You're asking somebody to represent you on their website, to say that we vouch for you on their website. So you need to take that seriously. You have to offer something to them, and you can't just go out and expect that begging will do it anymore. So when you're looking through a website, you find a good prospect, you need to build that contact information by searching for webmaster, searching for a contact form, searching for an email address. If you can't find any of those types of things, do a whois.sc/ whatever the name of the site is, and that'll give you the whois information. You might be able to find something there. You might be able to find an address, a name. Sometimes you just get domains by proxy, so you can't figure out who the domain is actually from, but you might get a little bit of tidbit there. You might be able to do a search for the people's name, or check out Reportative, or do a search for the phone number, and take that approach. So you can search for phone numbers, you can search for people. There's so many ways to find people on social networks these days, like we talked about in the people prospecting area of this presentation. And just doing a Control U to view source in Firefox, or a Control F to find text. These are just quick tips that are going to help you to find that contact information just a little bit quicker. Shift click is going to help you to open multiple windows when you're going through lots of these sites, and there's some add-on extensions for this type of thing as well. Finding contact information, this is one tool that sometimes works. Reportative is probably my favorite tool for finding contact information these days. It's built right into Gmail, and you can see Aaron has a couple Twitter accounts, a LinkedIn account, a Google Plus account, etc. And just really, really helpful information when you're looking to reach out to people and find them through different channels. Polaris Insight is also going to tell you a lot about a company if they're mentioned on Mashable or Quora or Crunchbase, or how many employees they have on LinkedIn. This is really, really helpful. The most helpful tool I found for building contact information is probably Raven Tools Find Contact solution. So you can do a search for something like this wine site here, and you'll find the names associated with it, potential emails, potential phone numbers, and then the likelihood that those are accurate. So really, really great way to find that contact information that you're looking for. You can see the types of results we get here for SEO Moz. All kinds of different people, the phone number, really, really great information to have. When you're doing your approach, I think it's really important for new link builders to go out and really just approach people. It's just like some men have problems approaching women and saying hi and being nervous. I think the same thing is true when it comes to doing outreach and sending an email that says, hey, just making contact here. I want to talk to you about maybe some kind of link partnership, or if you can link to me. A lot of times you just have to do that outreach and have a couple touch points and exchange a couple emails before you kind of go in for the date and ask for the date and ask for that link. So this link here is a comparison of how approaching webmasters is like talking to women. Pretty decent analogy, I think, and some insights to be gleaned from there. But at the end of the day, you really need to have some value. You need to have some link assets to go to these webmasters and say, hey, this is great content for your website. Your users are really going to enjoy this, and be genuine about it. You have to answer that age-old question of what's in it for me. So I use social media as the platform for what I call link baiting. This is a great resource for exactly how much it takes to do a successful link bait. An awesome content, a unique selling point, excited people, resources, great design, an outreach plan, an effective process, and if one of those steps goes wrong, you're going to end up with poor reception, competitors are rip it off, not motivated, frustration, it's going to look ugly, have limited success, or chaos and confusion. But you need all of those things to really have successful link bait. And we'll look at the strategy here in just a moment. So your approach strategy has to be based on link bait, just something awesome, an awesome piece of cornerstone content, an infographic, a great product. That's what Google's always saying. You need that great product. Not everybody can come up with that, but there has to be some unique selling point. There has to be some linkable asset. If you have the entourage of followers on Google Plus or a public relations team that are link building ninjas, that's going to really help you as well. But if you're just going out and creating great content, it's not going to be enough. It's going to be like a billboard in Iowa. It can be the most beautiful, elaborate, blinking billboard you ever saw, but if there's nobody driving by, it's really not going to do you a lot of good. You need to have outreach as well. Just by building it, it doesn't mean they'll come. A redesign doesn't necessarily produce more visitors. Social media is useful for the same reasons as SEO and PPC. It's a distribution platform to get your message out. If your message sucks, it's not going to help with the bottom line. So one great example of LinkBait is the OkCupid blog. They are anonymizing data about users and just doing some really interesting and fascinating studies that people want to read, and how your race affects the messages you get, the real stuff white people like, the big lies people tell in online dating. These are all really, really fun topics that get spread around. Now you might be saying, I'm a dentist in Podunk, Idaho. How does this affect me? Well, there's always things that are relevant to that. If you are a dentist in the middle of nowhere, it might be the 10 candies that rot your teeth most. It can be something that you put a spin on. There's always a topic that people want to read about, and your delivery and your execution is really what's going to make it great or make it flop. So these distribution channels include authority sites, social media channels, media, blogs, regular old email and RSS. But we have to look at the 5 steps of link baiting to really know what we're going to do and pull it off. Similar to that graphic from Distilled earlier, we need to understand our link baiting hooks, define our audience, research some ideas, polish and launch these ideas. So what people forget is when you're doing link baiting, we're really just looking for a new twist on an old topic. And the goal is not necessarily relevance. The goal is link popularity. We don't have to be specific, super relevant to our niche, but we need to come up with something that people are going to want to read. So my favorite example of this, taking it a little bit too far off topic, is 8 diseases that give you superhuman power, and it was posted on a used car website. Now, if they would have incorporated used cars or cars at all a little bit, it probably would have done better, but this was still enough link equity to power them for quite some time. When you're reaching out to these webmasters, you need to realize that they have very short attention spans. They're very torn and drawn in different directions all day long, opening 27 tabs, several windows, working on 6 projects, and you need to target that webmaster and keep their attention even for a minute or two is pretty tough sometimes. So you need to keep that in mind and build something that's going to be enough entertainment and enough to grab that webmaster and say, hey, I want to link to this. This looks great. This is something I could put on my website. And you're only able to do that with infographics and really, really phenomenal content. So a great look at ways to reach those linkerati, if you call them, if you like to call them that, the content distributors and the people who really share content. This is a post from Rand over at SEO Moz 21 Tactics to Increase Blog Traffic, and I just really like the graphic of saying, there's a lot of people that are going to consume the content. There's even some people that are going to distribute it a little bit and share it, but there's some people that are really, really active in social media, and that's who you want to reach. You really want to reach those people just with the short attention spans, but also the ones that are going to repost it, that are going to reshare it, and that are very active in social media. And the way to find those is what we talked about in people prospecting in the earlier in the earlier presentation, Follower Wonk, Twello, some of these other places. So the hooks. The link baiting hooks, attack hook, humor hook, contrarian, news, resource, ego, and picture and movie hook. All of these are ideas that you can take and apply to your website and cater that hook to your audience. I like to combine one or two. My favorite would be the ego hook and the resource hook. This is a series of interviews done by Michael Gray at wolfhowl.com. Really fantastic. He interviewed all these experts who also have websites and did a great interview with them, created an awesome local search interview series, and I would be willing to bet most of these people linked back to their own interview as well, just to share that with their visitors and with their user base. So really, really great way to pick up some links as well as add some great content to your site. Same thing with resource and incentive or ego hooks, the SEO Moz Web 2.0 awards, the Webby awards. Everybody wants to have an award to display on their website, and that's going to link back to your website. So these can be very, very good link acquisition strategies if they're executed effectively. So you really need to know these hooks and combinations, target a specific market, mommy bloggers, sports bloggers, different types of bloggers within your niche, and make sure that you know the climate, that you know the hooks. Just like we talked about link building being like fishing, you need to know those areas where these people are going to respond. And it's unique to every vertical. You really need to keep the hooks in mind, but target it specifically to your niche and be willing to stretch that relevance to the people that are also web people. So if you're speaking to fishermen online, you know that they're two things. They like to go fishing, they're involved outdoors, and they are involved online as well. They're webmasters, they know about technical things, and they probably have that short attention span. So you need to define that audience, and you need to find those people that have those common traits and target them specifically. A good way to find content opportunities is Raven Tools. So when you're going to do your research, you can look at the things that people are already looking at. For this wine site, I can see that people are interested in food pairing and what wines to pair with what food. So I might want to recreate some content on that. I can research through things like my competitors. So that competitor list that we created earlier, I can go through and say, okay, if I'm working in educational toys, let's look at Toys R Us and see how many pages they've had on Dig, Reddit, Delicious, Yahoo Answers, Technorati, all these other sources, and what pages were those? What did they have good luck with? Well, Toys R Us DOS is probably news, LaDainian Tomlinson, limited edition playoff dolls, all these other things. So we're going to find what content really worked for them. One that we found for Brainwave's Toys was Wonder Brains had this article on homemade finger paint. It almost made the homepage of Dig, but not quite. So we might want to take this and recreate this content and make it just a little bit better. One that we did actually do for Brainwave's Toys was toys that should not exist. And we saw that this worked several times on Dig. We did it again, and you know what? It worked a third or fourth time. And even though this article's been written before, it's something that people always want to see. So sometimes you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. You can just get some content that's already been doing well and apply it to that same audience and just kind of do it one better. Make sure you reference those articles if you're doing that sort of thing. But you can sort someplace like Dig by most Digs. You can go to Reddit and do the same thing by most Reddits, Stumble Upon, etc. and find that content that's most popular and recreate some of that stuff. Check out this site called Topsy, and this will show you some of that content that does really well. And then you're going to create that content for outreach. That's going to be the stuff that you use. If you want to do an infographic, you can go to Visually. A lot of the agencies that create these are available through this site, and you can see what actually worked. So I can do a search for wine and see, hey, these are visualizing alcohol use, most prized wine, drink wine on a budget. These are the things that have worked before. Let's try to recreate one of these and see what we can do with it, and use this as our linkable asset for our outreach strategy. And then when you launch it, make sure to have some share functionality. Don't go overboard with the advertising. If you're sharing things through social media, make sure that you kind of take down that advertising and just leverage those calls to action for more sharing. And then after you launch it, do a little bit of old-fashioned link begging. Just personalize every email, make a spreadsheet before you launch, and ask for those links. The one thing that people don't tell you when they say create great content and talk about link baiting is the unpublished step of creating a whole bunch of what I like to call smutties. And smutties are your social media buddies. They might not be the people that you hang out with all the time or that you talk to on a daily basis. These are the people that you just want to share some things for you and help you when you launch something big. And you'll have to do the same in return. You'll have to reciprocate that and vote for some of their things and help out and stay active in those communities. So this is the really difficult part that's not often mentioned, but it is really important to that overall strategy. You have to know that some of your link bait is going to bomb. It's just not going to work well. What you should expect is creating some great content and hopefully increasing your global link popularity if it does go well, and ultimately increasing your mind share. If you're publishing on a blog, you're going to get RSS subscribers, which equate to future links. If your link bait bombs, go out and do those manual emails. Go repurpose some of that content for a guest post. Take part of that link bait or write an article about that infographic and publish it on somebody else's site. This evergreen content that isn't timely and isn't news oriented is going to be easier to do that with. But at the end of the day, you need to remember the most important element of link bait and social media, which is represented by this man from Cypress Hill, which is be real. You definitely have to be real and be genuine with your social media and outreach endeavors. So that's the 5 steps of link baiting. In the curriculum, there's the 7 steps of link baiting, which I've condensed down to these 5 steps, which will hopefully help you quite a bit here. Let's talk about writing some of those link requests. As I said, being genuine and real is important. Being concise is also important. Start with a catchy subject line. Don't include link request. Don't do a link request like the one you see here. And then make sure you follow up. Make sure you have a couple touch points. You probably don't even want to ask for the link in the very first request. From the iAcquire study, it seemed that it always took at least 2 or 3 or 4 follow-up emails to usually get a successful link. Sometimes you might not want to ask in that first link. You just might want to reach out and try to get a response and see if you can get a response from those people. You might also want to consider reaching out on different networks, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Make that initial contact through one of these social media channels before you send that email that says, hey, do you think it'd be cool if you link to me? And then make sure to write quality link requests. Some examples on SEO Moz here of outreach letters for link building. This was from a gentleman there that did some examples. He's got a bunch of really nice examples here of emails that he's sent out. Most of the time you want to customize these. There's all kinds of speculation as far as what works and what doesn't. At the end of the day, you just need to be credible, be brief, and you really need to be lucky. Like the guy with the question mark suit here, he looks pretty lucky. So the credibility builders with regards to sending those outreach emails, a real person is always going to have more luck than trying to create a persona. Having a logo is surprisingly important. And one of the things that came out of the quantifying outreach study that iAcquire did was having a logo in your email actually helps quite a bit. A phone number is actually questionable. You would think this is a good thing to have in there, but from their research, it seemed that most people equate that to Nigerian scams and different scams, so a phone number may not actually be a good idea. And they actually had a little bit better response in terms of response rates by not including that phone number. Having an email address at the domain that you're requesting the link is important. Having social profiles that are consistent with that brand is important. And then sending multiple emails. Like I said, you're not going to get that link on the first request. There's a tool called Boomerang through Gmail that's really, really handy for doing this and scheduling follow-ups so that you know that you're going back and asking these people again, hey, did you check out this content? Things you don't want to do, don't talk about page ranks. Don't try to just beg for a link and have nothing to offer. Blatant flattery may work sometimes, but when people figure you out, they're not going to be too pleased about that. Don't put link request in the subject line. Don't set up a reciprocal link directory and add people to it. Don't add people to your links HTML page and then email them. These are all old techniques. Don't bother doing some of this stuff. Good SEOs and good webmasters are not going to respond to this type of thing. You might want to create a submit your URL directory and have people email you, but you're not going to want to just add a bunch of people that aren't that good to a directory and hope they link back to you. And don't ask for the link on the first email. With your opening lines, talk about how much advertising costs on a specific page, if you're just going right for trying to buy a link, or just try to get that initial point of contact. Talk about broken links, talk about maybe other problems with their site, things that you can help with. Make sure to mention their name and be specific about the pages that you're talking about. Mention, what linkable assets you have, what unique selling points, and then always require a response. Is this of interest to you? What are your thoughts? Can we talk about this more? Let me know what we can work out. Some of the older techniques were to use kind of personas. If you still want to do this, similar to famous trusted people is always a good idea. Sandra Hogan, Diana Keaton, Shirley Brady. If you're from the 80s, you probably remember some of these names. This was among the more gray hat approaches, but sometimes if you're working in a industry that's a little bit more competitive, some of these types of techniques can be effective. And then make sure to reach out on other channels. Go through Instant Messenger, Facebook, Twitter. Not all of them. Don't spam somebody over and over, but you might want to do some of that initial outreach before you email people on some of these other channels and approach them through those channels. Rapportive is going to help you find some of these places, find people on LinkedIn and Google Plus and Quora, and start those conversations with people there. One other technique that's been gaining more and more popularity is that of broken link building. The idea of going and finding broken links on someone's site and saying, hey, you got a broken link here, we have a resource that could replace that. We just wanted to let you know. So there's a whole process to this. There's tools you can use this. There's follow-up. This person has written a great article, so I'm not going to recreate the wheel here, but consider doing that, just doing outreach based on broken link building. You would write an email something along these lines. I was looking through your suggested links on Awesome Wine site and noticed a few broken links. Let me know if there's a way I can reach the webmaster, and I think winesite.com that I own would be a great fit for because we have some great resources on pairing red wine that I think your readers may enjoy. I might not want to do this all in one email. I might want to space it out over a couple emails with a tool like Boomerang. Here's how that gets set up, and what that looks like is you can send later and you can boomerang this message if I don't hear back in a couple days and require a response there and kind of follow up with those people with multiple. So that was a whole lot of information on approaching for links and what to do and what to consider when you're approaching people. You need to conduct that overall assessment. You need to find a way. You need some good techniques for finding contact information, and then you need to have a content strategy, link baiting or some other linkable asset, and then you need to be able to create quality outreach emails customized to your individual audience. Every audience is different. You really need to know that climate. You need to know what the community is about, what the industry is buzzing about, what the local news is, what people are talking about online, and then harness that and take advantage of that and use that as part of your link marketing strategy. So thanks for joining me in Approach Assessment. You're on the home stretch. You're almost there. We're going to finish with relationship building and tools in part 7.